The concept and functionality of a chipset is fundamental to how a PC works. So you will certainly see this on the exam, either mentioned or even you'll be questioned just directly about what a chipset is and how it functions and what the benefits are. So in this video, let's talk about understanding chipsets. Well, a chipset is, well, it's a set of chips. And these chips work together to allow the computer to do its job. Now, if you open a computer up and you look at the motherboard, you'll notice that for the most part, the thing's nothing but chips, right? A bunch of processing chips attached to a motherboard, connected electronically, and they all communicate back and forth to do their jobs. Now, usually, when you hear the term chipset and nothing else is mentioned, they're probably talking about the motherboard chipset that makes all your computer components work together. So what exactly does a chipset do? Well, a chipset is, again, a set of chips. It's a number of chips working together to assist the CPU. You can think of these things as personal assistants for the CPU. It helps it communicate with all the devices. The CPU, as it turns out, lives its life much like you and I, right? How many mornings do you get up, you go to the office, and there's 2 or 3 things you need to do. But on the way in, 4 people catch you and they interrupt you and they say, hey, I need this from you. I need this from you. Can you be at a meeting at 10? Can you do this at 11:30? And on and on and on. And so that's exactly what happens to the CPU. It is sitting there trying to carry out calculations, and constantly the mouse is interrupting it, the keyboard's interrupting it, memory's interrupting it, graphics is interrupting it. And so the CPU, just like us, needs some personal assistance, some administrative assistance to help us get everything done. Now, the motherboard also utilizes something called the North Bridge and the South Bridge to manage communications to these other devices, and so it's kind of a higher level administrative assistant, and you will see references to North and South Bridge on the exam. And so this video is going to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and help you understand a little bit more about North and South Bridge all at the same time. How's that? 2 for the price of 1. You can't beat it. Okay, so if we open the computer up, there's a CPU in there on the motherboard, right? Well, the CPU is going to have to communicate with the memory because from time to time it needs to write stuff to memory, pull stuff from memory for processing. It's going to work with AGP slots to handle graphics situations, graphic requests. It's going to work with PCI to connect out to the expansion slots because we've got network cards and who knows what else, sound cards, all kind of junk stuck out there. Junk being a Southern technical term for technology. And then you've got the ISA, IDE world. We're talking about hard disks here. That needs to talk to the CPU. And so when all these guys start talking at once, you can notice the CPU starts to get a lot of instructions being flung at it at one time. This will slow your computer down because the CPU, even though it's running really quickly, can really only handle 1 request at a time. And so it threads them just like we do, and it handles one for 5 seconds, another one for 5 seconds, another one for 5 seconds, and it keeps switching back and forth. But there's a better way, and the better way is a chipset. We still have all the same functionalities that need to communicate with the CPU, but now we utilize a chipset. We add the North Bridge and the South Bridge. Now these are computer chips, all right, very similar to CPU, but they're just computer chips that are going to do some housework for us, okay, and do some housekeeping. So what's going to happen, the CPU is going to communicate to the North Bridge, and it will communicate to the memory, to the AGP, and then the South Bridge is going to take care of PCI and ISA and so forth. And now everybody communicates first with their chip, and then the chip communicates with North Bridge, and North Bridge is kind of the gatekeeper, if you will, and it communicates with CPU. Now this is a simplistic graphic, but it helps you get a concept of what's going on. So a chipset basically gives us levels of isolation from all the devices that are trying to get one device's attention, and now the CPU becomes kind of a delegator. It issues instructions. The North Bridge can carry those out. It can kind of coalesce data, get things in order, make everybody get in a single file line and shut up and all that sort of stuff. But that is exactly what the motherboard chipset does, and you can take this same idea and apply it to almost any chipset that's mentioned inside your PC. So that, I hope, helps you understand chipsets.